So we are beginning with the course ENGL 201, Introduction to English Literature. Now here is the course description, okay, and it is very important for you to be aware of the description of the course, but more importantly learning outcomes of the course, okay. Your efforts for the course should align with the learning outcomes of the course, okay, because the instructor has in mind exactly what outcomes the instructor wants to achieve or wants the students to achieve through the course, okay. So closer you are to the learning outcomes, the better performance you will have in terms of your grade. So the description says basic questions on the nature and function of literature, interpretation, discussion and evaluation of literary texts through a diverse and rich variety of selection from English and American literature. We will be reading major authors and literary figures who have shaped the British and American literature through the ages. The course includes short stories, drama, poetry, and a novel chosen by the instructor. And this course is a prereq for all 200, 300 level literature courses. Okay. So this description comes from the catalog, okay, university catalog. So I'm sure you have read that or you have seen that or you know that there is description for each course in the course catalog, in the university catalog. Okay, so these are the outcomes the learners will be able to, number one, know the features of literature as a body of knowledge. Okay, so this is what I had in my mind when I said to you that the course may not directly aim at improving your communication skills, because literature is a body of knowledge in its own right. Just like physics is a body of knowledge in its own right. You read physics in English, all right, but that doesn't mean you improve your communication as well. Okay, so the fact that you are reading literature in English does not necessarily mean that you are working on your language as such, okay. Why? Because there is a uniqueness attached to literature itself as a body of knowledge, okay. So that is the first learning outcome that I am kind of encouraging you to achieve with me, which is understand why and how literature is considered to be or can be considered to be or can be classified as an independent or interdependent body of knowledge, and what are its features as an independent body of knowledge, okay. For example, for many of the sciences, say chemistry, one of the most important features of chemistry is experiment. Unless you perform an experiment, you cannot produce the knowledge of chemistry. I mean, in most of the cases, there would be exceptions, I know. But normally speaking, you need to have a lab to produce knowledge about chemistry. You need to deal with chemicals, you need to deal with various instruments which are in the lab. On the other hand, literary studies do not require much of the experimentation. Okay. On the other hand, literature usually emerges as a body of knowledge from human experience. Okay. So experience, not experiment. All right. So that is a major distinction. Okay. So the feature of chemistry as a knowledge is experimentation. Okay. But the feature of literature as a knowledge is experience, human experience. That is just one feature. There are many others. Okay, so whenever you learn about a body of knowledge, I'm sure you have taken, even if not in your undergrad, you have taken before that various courses in introduction to those courses, introduction to statistics, for example, or introduction to physics. Okay, so you are familiarized in those intro level courses, you are familiarized with the major terms of that particular discipline. Okay, major definitions of that particular discipline. Okay, those definitions and those terms actually introduce you to the features of that particular body of knowledge. Okay, so that is the first learning outcome. The second one is you should be able to understand the roles and functions of literature. Okay, and this is a little more critical learning outcome. Why so? Because in material sciences, it is very easy to conceive the function and role of what those sciences do with society and with the world. Okay, civil engineering, for example. Probably one of the best examples of civil engineering is the bridges in Lahore. All right, it's too big, you cannot even ignore them. Okay, so the material development impresses the importance of science on your mind. You don't need to give a second thought to it. Okay, it is so obvious. But when it comes to literary studies, usually the function and role of literary study is if not undermined, at least ignored. Okay, we do not tend to give much more importance or any importance to literary studies as one of the primary needs of human society. So we need to think more about it and learn more about it. Why is it that literature is so paramount for a successful, normal operationalization of a society? Where does it work? What does it create? Does it give food? Does it give money? Does it give houses to live? Or is it something else? Okay, so that is one major question that we need to handle and address through this course. And that is one outcome that I want you to achieve with me, which is to visualize the possible outcomes and roles of literature in society. Okay. The third outcome is to become familiar with the history, major movements and genres of the literatures in English. I am sure you are aware of the word history, okay, which is a chronological development of anything, okay, but over here chronological development of literary studies themselves. Major movements, okay. Now I'm sure you are aware of the word movement. Can you name any movement in Pakistan? Anytime. Yeah, okay.
Leftist movement in the time of Ayub Khan.
Okay.
Saw those names.
Yeah, which was pretty global, but then, yes, in Pakistan as well. Okay. All right. So you said something? Okay. Okay, good. I think that is a valid example. Okay, PDM is a valid example. It is a movement anyway. Okay, you can agree or disagree with its legitimacy. You might question its faithfulness. All right, but it is a movement. Anyways, over here we are talking about major movements in literature. Okay, so just like politics, by the way, politics is also a body of knowledge. Okay, politics is also a body of knowledge. People study political science to understand it. Okay, so just like politics, there are major movements in literary studies as well, or in literature as well. Okay, and depending upon those kind of movements, different kind of literature is produced. Okay, so we know that there have been very powerful, well, not powerful, but influential movements, okay, in the history of Pakistan as well, okay, about Urdu literature. Okay, there has been a different kind of literature being written over the history of Pakistan. Okay, that doesn't, I'm not trying to imply that Urdu is limited to Pakistan, but my example is only limited to Pakistan. Okay, there are other movements in Urdu in other parts of the world as well, like in India. Okay, Similarly, in France, in Britain, in the United States, there have been influential movements uh, initiated by some major literary figures, sometimes by artists. Okay, and then those movements kind of created what? Those movements created the groups of like-minded people, like-minded writer, and they together started writing in the same manner. For example, some of them at one particular point in history started saying that it is totally useless to write well constructed sentences in a novel. Okay, so instead of writing grammatically correct sentences in a novel, they thought they should write broken sentences. And their argument was, you want to say something? Like phrases. And their argument was, we should not write well structured sentences and well polished sentences in a novel, because in the real life we do not always speak grammatically correct English. Okay, so one word come from here and one, you see a group of friends gossiping with each other. Okay, do they speak the kind of language I am speaking right now for a lecture? Of course not. You know, one snippet comes from there and one thing comes from the other friend, and the third one intervenes and the fourth one doesn't let you speak, and so on and so forth. There are facial features and expressions which say more than, you know, the language itself. There are some mutually agreed upon codes among the friends. They use those codes and rest of the group starts laughing. Nobody understands why are they laughing. Okay, things of that kind. So there was a big, huge movement which advocated the fact that we should not write literature in a well-polished language. Rather, we should use the language which people use in day-to-day life. Okay, so that movement then influenced the body of literature, and a different kind of literature was written based upon that. Okay, so we will learn about a few movements which have been more influential, and then we will see what is their connection with the literature. So in fact, one way of understanding the history of literature is to understand its movements. Okay, that is one way. And then finally, genres of literature in English. Okay, anybody would like to say what is the word genre? What does that mean? Category, okay. Type, very good, yeah. So it is a type, or it is a kind, or it is a category, okay. So can you name any type or kind or category?
Comedy,
Fiction.
fiction, non-fiction.
You want to say something? Okay, so when you say sad story, there is a technical name for that. It is called tragedy. Okay, in literature we call it tragedy. Yeah, that is absolutely right. Okay, there were more voices. Comedy is another. Okay, if it is comic, yeah, but fiction, non-fiction, both are genres.
Sir, can we count existentialist literature as a kind of genre?
No, it is not a genre. It is a movement, in fact. It is a movement,
But
yeah.
the books that are written for this existentialism, are they not part of genre?
You will call them kind of, you know, a subcategory or subgenre of literature. Yeah. Uh, can anybody quickly tell me the time right now? I don't have clock with me. Okay, we are right on time. And then the next learning outcome for us is we should be able to read a literary text with special attention to the literary devices and figures of speech. Okay, so now reading literature requires that we understand the specific vocabulary which is used in a literary text. If we are not aware of that vocabulary, then we do not understand that. It is true of all knowledges. In fact, you will understand it better if you relate it with other disciplines that you have been studying. Okay? So one of my professors used to say that if you know basic English, then you can study any discipline in the world. What you need to do, if you want to read a book of anatomy, what is anatomy? It is study of body structure. Okay, when people go to a medical college, in the first semester they have to study anatomy of human body. Okay. So my professor used to say, anybody can study that book. The only thing you need is the dictionary of medical sciences. So go to the market, get a dictionary of medical sciences, put it with along with the book of anatomy, and then start reading it. Whichever word you don't understand, just see the word and continue to read. All right. Now, it is a little hard for us to kind of convince ourselves that literary text has its technical language. Okay, so reading for fun is totally different from a serious reading of a literary text. So a poem carries in it lot many figures of speech, lot many literary devices. Okay, and it is only by unfolding those literary devices and understanding those literary devices that we get to know the multi-layered meaning of a literary text. Okay, so we need to familiarize ourselves with that so that we should be able to read. So read with special attention to all of those details in a literary text. Okay, now the training in reading a literary text will not train you to read a physics text. For that, a different kind of training is needed. All right. And finally, and this is the ultimate objective of this course, you should be able to interpret and critically evaluate a literary text independently. Okay. And that would be the final output of the course as well, that you should be able to write for me an essay which would be a critical evaluation of a literary text. Okay. Now, one of the most important skills that you develop by reading literature is the skill of interpretation, the art of interpretation. Okay, that is almost unique to literary studies. It does exist in other disciplines to some extent, but in fact, it is kind of part and parcel of literature. Okay, you might have heard the word criticism in literature. Okay, it is a very common discipline in criticism. There is a separate course in criticism. I think 400 level, I think it is 400 level criticism and theory. So criticism is about critically evaluating a literary text. What is critical evaluation and how we do that? That is what we will learn later in the course. Okay. So these are the learning outcomes. I will stop here. I need to continue with the course outline. This is introduction of the course only. We need one more class for that. Some part of the next class, I'll explain to you the evaluation criteria for the course and then the text that we would be using in the class. Okay, and then from the next class we would begin with the first reading. Okay, so this is all. If you have questions, you can ask me.